This is going to be a really fun conversation. I'm here with you, Sunshine, and you are the head of community at Wildy World. And it's going to be fun to hear your insights on community and NFTs as a whole. We're very thankful that you're coming to speak at NFT NYC. Can you please introduce yourself to me?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be part of NFT.NYC. And yeah, so as head of community at Wilder World, I am basically building out our community. We have a thriving community on Telegram, Discord, through our email communication channels. And so I'm doing a little bit of really infrastructure building right now. The team has been building out Wilder World for some time, for over a year. And then they've been working on their sister organization, Zero, for about 6 years now. And so I can get into a little bit more about what that is shortly. But my role is really just to create some consistency within our communication to our community and just build like the best, most loving community as we can. I think what's interesting about NFTs and the industry here versus other industries that I've worked in, which are like mobile products and venture capital, is that everybody here is very conscious of their human to human interaction, even though everything is like online. So there's like a level of empathy that I think is elevated. And so I think bringing that also into the community space while we're all virtual and online is incredibly important. And I can just share a little bit about Wilder World so you know what that is. Wilder World is the new dimension of reality, and it's an immersive 5D metaverse that we're building on Ethereum, Unreal Engine 5, and Zero. Wilder World is powered by the Wild token, which is used on the Wilder World metaverse marketplace. And so essentially Wilder World is a project that will be like a 3D / 5D metaverse is what we're calling it, because it's not only interactive in the virtual space, but it's really focused on elevating people both internally through a level of consciousness, but there's this concept of interconnectedness. And the way we think about that is building, it's going to be impossible for one company to build the entire metaverse. And so we need to really think about connectedness and interoperability and how actually plays out in a virtual space. And so that's also one aspect of how we're thinking about building the metaverse. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thanks for introducing yourself and going into the detail. So many things that you said stand out to me, but I'm gonna focus on one thing, and that is you want to build the most loving community. And that certainly ties to your name, your identity, Sunshine, right? Just bringing light to everybody around you and hoping that they'll do the same. When you think about building a loving community that is good for all involved, why is a Web3 metaverse decentralized approach a better ecosystem to develop a loving community than the previous slave master institutions that we were trying to build community in, called the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world? What are you excited about in terms of the opportunities to build this type of community in these new type of ecosystems?
Yeah, well, I think that diversity is a huge aspect. And when we think about like decentralization versus centralization, I think what happens is we start to explore a level of diversity where a lot of people have the ability to explore building versus like top down, where one person is deciding and then everybody kind of has to follow suit. I think the other thing too is when you have a decentralized organization, people have the ability to test things quickly and fail quickly. And if things catch on, in the metaverse, if things catch on in a way where things are working and there's the ability to explore and expand, that catches on quickly versus like, well, can I start over? Can I start over with that one?
You can start over anytime you want. You're my guest. You can say anything you want.
Thank you. This is the first, it's so funny because I'm like, this is the first time.
But just, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, what's she gonna say? She can start over. Okay, great. It's like reading a book. It's like when you're reading a book, you're like, wait, I got lost. I got to go back, start over again.
Well, what's really interesting, and I'll just give some insight. So I've been working in NFTs since February. I've worked for 2 different platforms. I left the other platform because I really wanted to build the metaverse. And so digging into what our values are as a business is like something that's I intuitively understand and I can relate to, but communicating those values out, or like from a messaging perspective, it's like, oh, I'm trying to be on brand here. I'm trying to like, communicate what our actual values are for the company. And so for me, that's something that's very new. So I'm like, how do I say this, but like tie it back to Wilder World and not just make it like me loving on NFTs as like my passion. So maybe we can start that question over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question ultimately is, when you think about technology, and let's say for Wilder World, right? You're the head of community for Wilder World. How can Wilder World create a more loving, decentralized community because of Web3 than they would have been able to had they started a Facebook group in Web2 5 years ago?
Mm-hmm. So I think that's an interesting question. What we believe at Wilder World is that the metaverse is a co-creation, and it's not like a centralized governance system where some person has the ultimate say in how like the experience is felt throughout the community. And I think when we can instill principles within a community, like for example, Burning Man has like 10 principles of like radical self-reliance or radical participation, right? And so even in Wilder World, like our focus is really to build the Wilder spirit. And building the Wilder spirit means that you're helping people to connect to a more liberated perception. Perception that is infinite, right? So when we think building out a metaverse that's more decentralized, all of our code is open source, right? So people can come in and access that. And so from like a traditional perspective of business, like Facebook or these other businesses that have shareholders that they have to answer to, that proprietary information is secret, and it's held really close to the on lockdown in the vault. And so the way that we believe is like, if we can liberate people by giving them access to information, giving them access to code, allowing them to leverage our protocols, then they can actually, we can actually have infinite possibilities for how that code is applied, right? And then things that the community decides or deems valuable, then those will fail, or those will succeed. And the things that the community decides are not valuable will fail. And so iteration becomes a very quick process. And so for us, helping people to find the Wilder spirit and really understanding that like access to source is infinite. And so we can actually create a 5D metaverse where all of us can explore positivity, goodness, kindness, empathy, living on those principles. We can actually grow like a more beautiful and loving community. When we come from a place of love, I think we see bounty, right? But when we operate from a place of fear in general, or scarcity in like business, I think that we become protective. And so I think that, to answer your question, when we can instill principles of higher quality, like love, freedom, liberated thought, non-judgmentalism, kindness, empathy, then that actually will transcend throughout the community and create a more bountiful community.
If I say to you NFT 2024 and you project the community that you want to be a part of, the community that you want to help cultivate over the next 2 or 3 years, how might that community of the future look a little different than the community that's currently in place, besides just larger and more decentralized? So what are some other things that you're hoping for and building towards?
When I think about community in 2024, it means that we're spending time in the metaverse, co-creating in places that we never knew exist. We don't know exists today, right? So these spaces and places that we're building in Wilder World are like headquarters or clubhouses for Illuvium and for Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. And like these people who are part of those communities can join in harmony with others. And there's a level of serendipity, I think, that can occur when we're in the metaverse. Right now, it's still a really, really new a framework, right, for people to get involved in the metaverse, right? We have like Decentraland, and sometimes those spaces can be a little disoriented. But I do believe that the platforms and the technology that we're working with will be a lot more powerful in holding space for the metaverse. And then the accessibility will be a lot easier of an entry point, right? With virtual reality headsets or different ways that we can experience the metaverse on our phones or, through desktop, right? So I think the future of community is going to be really meta, and it's going to be in places that we don't know exist. Yeah.
If Wilder World had all the billboards in Times Square, and this is my final question, by the way, we're wrapping up. If they had all the billboards in Times Square and the 5,000 attendees of NFT NYC show up, they're looking up at the billboards, what would Wilder World want to say to everybody? Or what would the call to action be to the NFT community?
That's a really good question. I think they would probably see images of Wyoming, which is our the first photorealistic riding in our Wilder Wheels, checking out a beautiful skyline with all these different headquarters of like Metaverse and Illuvium and Knights of Degen. And the message I think that I would like to project, and I think Wilder World would like to project, is that we're in this together and we're building the metaverse together. It isn't a one person takes all kind of game. The way that we build the metaverse and the way that we can grow this industry is by working together and co-collaborating.
I love that. I think we all agree that principle is true. And for anybody that's watching us live or sees the archive of this, I want to thank you for your attention. If you don't know me, my name's Ian Utilli. I'm one of the co-producers at NFT NYC, and I have the great joy and honor of talking with people like you, Sunshine. We're very thankful at our event to be able to have you come speak, have Wilder World involved, and I look forward to spending time with you in New York.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Ian, and thank you for having me.